Alright guys, welcome back to the Mumen Rider YouTube channel. It's good to be back. It's been a while since I've done the last video, but a lot has been happening. Just a lot's been happening. Work, training some here and there. But guess what? Storming Thunder Ridge is this weekend. This Sunday actually, so today's Friday, that's in 2 days. The group's getting down, most of them tonight, some are coming in tomorrow morning. So we're going to have a warm-up group ride tomorrow. I think seven or 8 of us are doing it. I'll lose track of the number. Some have had things come up in the last little bit, so they can't come. Others are coming more than what we thought. Some that weren't originally coming are coming now. So it's going to be a good group. Definitely going to do a video afterwards, just recapping and telling the whole journey, the whole story, the whole epic adventure we're going to do. It's always such a blast. So fun. Well, anyway, so those guys are getting in tonight and some tomorrow. So this video is going to be about a past Storming Thunder Ridge ride that we did. This is the 2019 Storming of Thunder Ridge. It's a really, really epic one. This was actually, the 2019 one was my bachelor party. I was going to get married the following weekend. And so for my bachelor party, my brother-in-law, who's my brother-in-law now, he married my sister, Steve, he was like, hey, you like biking. We have a good group of guys who like biking. For your bachelor party, let's do Storming Thunder Ridge 2019. So we all signed up. A group of 7 of us did it. It was so epic. Best bachelor party ever. It's really what got us hooked on it. And so now, because the previous year, there had just been 3 of us. It was Steve, Pat, and myself. We had done it, and we had struggled through it. I already did a past video about that. You can go look at that and recap, watch it. So then the next year, 2019, it was a blast. We had my brother Jace, he was doing it with us. Steve, Dan, who's another rider I've mentioned in some of my other videos, who's like super strong now, bikes all the time. He has super good long distance endurance. He'll go out and bike 120 miles by himself, 100 miles. He's like tapering for this event, and he's biking like 43, 45, 40 miles. Yeah, I'm tapering, guys, I'm tapering. Averaging like 17, 18 miles an hour. I'm like, dude, if that's tapering, holy cow, we're in for a real treat. We're just going to have you at the front pulling the whole time because, yeah, that's what we're going to do. So anyway, so Dan was at this one, 2019. But this was actually before he had really started getting into biking, and so he wasn't in great shape then, but I'll tell you about that in just a minute. And so then we had also Steve's brother John, who's going to be coming this weekend, and Royal, and I think that's about it. Oh, and Pat. So we had 7 of us that year. So Steve, John, myself, Royal, Pat, Dan, and Jace, my brother. So my brother Jace, he hadn't really been training either. So Dan hadn't really been training. Jace hadn't really been training. And then Steve had been training a decent amount. He was in pretty good shape, but he doesn't train too much because his nickname is the best out of shape cyclist I know. I know, it's a long nickname, but he's like, I gotta keep my nickname, alright? So he doesn't train too much. He's actually been running a bit. So he has good cardio, you know, heart and lungs, but his biking leg strength can be lacking sometimes in some areas, but then he'll usually bike for 1 or 2 weeks leading up to an event, and he'll be pretty good. Enough to just stick behind people and everything, and it helps. Just even someone who sticks behind you, it helps encourage and all these things. But anyway, enough of the rabbit trails. So, and then his brother John was super into biking. That year he had already done a triathlon, like a longer triathlon and everything. So it was like a half Ironman or something. So he had biked like 65, the bike portion of it was 65 miles. So he was in good shape, really good shape leading up to it, until 2 weeks out from the Storming Thunder Ridge 2019, he was just like, yeah, I'm going to start tapering. So then he doesn't bike or anything for 2 weeks. So that kind of hurt him. And his brother Steve had been doing it, just had been training up until then. So I was like, that kind of hurt him. So anyway, we get there, as always, on time. Jokes. We get there late. We start a bit late. Some of us do, other of us don't. So because of that, we're all split up in the big group because Storming Thunder Ridge is huge. This year, we already have 840 people signed up this year. Now, I don't know how many of those will turn out, and obviously we're having to start them in waves because of COVID restrictions and all of that. So we're starting in different waves, different times. You have to sign up for different time segments of when we can start. But it's huge this year. But anyway, 2019, it was a pretty big year. It was around 740 or something people, something like that. But it was really good. So so John and Steve, they're like, no, we got to get there on time. We got to start on time. So they get there. They start in the front group, beginning group. Royal, Dan, Jace, and myself, we roll up later with Pat. I don't know where Pat was. Pat was somewhere. But Royal, Jace, Dan, and myself, we roll up, and we're like, okay, yeah, this is good. You know, we'll start here. The group had kind of started. We couldn't find John or Pat. I mean, we couldn't find John or Steve within the group. They were like way at the front. So we're just like, all right, we'll start. We start kind of in the middle to the back of the pack. 700 people. It's massive. You get lost quite a bit in there. And we lose sight of Dan. Later come to find out, Dan, who hadn't really been training for this one yet, was just getting into cycling. I don't know if he had eaten something bad for breakfast, but he starts going, and then within the first 10 miles, I think around mile 5 or 6, he starts feeling bad, has to stop and throw up for some reason. And so then he heads back and eats something more or something, I don't know, and hydrates. But what's great is that, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So anyway, he comes back into the story. So then Jace, my brother, and myself, we're in the group, and we're just like, well, Royal is gone. We can't find Royal. He had booked it up to the front somehow to try to find Steve and John. So, and actually I'm not even sure if Pat was in this one. I can't remember. I thought he had signed up for it. But anyway, I know all the other people were. So anyway, Jace and myself, we're just like, okay, we need to try to work our way through the peloton to find John and Steve and Royal, since Royal had kind of ditched us and gotten up to the front. So we're working our way through the start, and then there opens up a gap. A gap opened up, you know, big group here, big group up there. I'm like, all right, Jace, we need to get up to the front group because I know John and Steve are up there. So follow me. I've been doing quite a bit of training, so I was in pretty good shape. Jace wasn't as much, but he's still already pretty strong legs and everything, so he could stick decently well. Especially if he's drafting behind people, he can still hang on. So I get out to the wind and try to get to the next group, and it was like, poof, that wind was something. That's crazy. It's really hard to do, actually. I was like, holy cow, this is tough. But we ended up making it, and I think the front group kind of slowed down a bit. We ended up making it. We finally catch them. So the big Storming Thunder Ridge, the 13-mile climb, it starts at mile 28 or 29 or something is when the 13-mile climb starts. So we finally are able to catch them on mile like 24, literally kind of just before the 13-mile climb starts. So we catch them, and then we're all kind of chilling, hanging out together. And Pat was there. Yep, I remember Pat being there now. He was there. He was kind of chilling in the back and everything. Because I remember him climbing the 13-mile climb with us. Yep, that's right. So he's there, and we start getting the climb. We get in a line, and we're like, all right, guys, we're going to start going. John takes the front, because John's like, I'm the climber here. I'm going to pace us to the front. Starts getting to the front, starts going, and then he's just like, nah, it's not happening for me today. He drops off the back and kind of slows the pace down a bit. Steve, Jason, Royal just start pushing it. I get off the front because I'm going to try to get a really good time. I wasn't in as good a shape as I am now, but I still got it. So I got to the top of the climb, 13-mile climb. I did it in an hour and 20 minutes. It was like an hour and 20 minutes and something seconds exactly. And they all come in behind me at an hour and 30 hour and 35 minutes or so behind me. And so once I got to the top, I was just chilling and kind of waiting for them. But, so we get to the top. John, he wasn't anywhere to be seen. And Royal, Jace, and Steve all roll up together. Steve stops because he was really starting to struggle. His legs were starting to cramp and everything. But Jace, I think because he had been kind of struggling up there too and didn't really want anyone to know, he's just like, yeah, Royal and I are going to push on. We're going to hit this descent hard. And I'm like, no, guys, we should really wait up, because they had never done the descent on the back side of the 13-mile climb before. And there are some really tight twists and turns. And if you're not paying attention or not careful or don't really know it, you have to really be careful, because you can run off the road pretty easily and pretty quickly. But Jace and Royal just take off, and they're just like, no, we're going to do it. So they take off, and they start doing it. And I wait up for Steve. He grabs some electrolytes and everything and starts pumping them into his body. And so we start taking off, and he's like, Joe, my legs, they're cramping, man. And I'm like, it's all right, just try to stick to my wheel. We're coasting down. Those electrolytes will start to kick in. And thankfully, they did. They started to kick in. And so, but I'm just like, they're descending. And Jace is actually a really good descender normally. He's not afraid to go fast. So he's just booking it down there. Royal's probably sticking around behind his wheel, close to there. Obviously, when we're descending, we try to give each other a little bit of space, so we're not like right on each other's wheels. So if someone tries to brake suddenly, it's not like a huge pile up when you're going like 40 miles an hour. It's usually a bit dangerous. So, wow. So we're going, and I'm like, I don't think we're going to catch him for a bit. Then all of a sudden, we see them on the side of the road. And so we slow down and we stop and we go back up there. Jace has his bloody leg and like some bloody marks on his face and everything. I'm like, what in the world happened? And Royal's like, yeah, Jace was booking it down here super fast. And we got around to those two tight corners. And he didn't make the second one. He made the first one somehow. Royal's like, I thought he was going to crash for sure. He leaned hard, made the first one, went to go to the second one, couldn't make it. Went straight off into the woods. Luckily, it was the wood side. So if it were the sloped other side, he would have careened right down the side of the mountain pretty much for a good 100 feet or so. This one, he just went straight off into the woods, hit the embankment, really kind of bent the front tire fork. So the front tire, the forks that come down, he bent those back, so he bent them backwards, so he used his feet and bent them back out straight. But still, I was like, holy cow, I can't believe nothing else happened. So he gets back on the bike, and then we start going back down, more slowly this time. And I'm at the front, since I'd actually done this descent before. I'm at the front, kind of leading it, and we're going down more slowly. And then we're getting close to the 5th rest stop, which is a nice rest stop, good rest stop. 5th rest stop. About a mile and a half away from that, Jace's tire goes flat, because obviously he'd gone off the side of a mountain and something had punctured his tire, and it was just a slow flat. So we were able to cart him to the 5th rest stop. They're all just sitting down there resting. Steve was like, whew, he was getting pretty tired, so he was resting. He had actually had a little spill at the beginning of the day. He just wasn't paying attention, kind of went off the curb a little bit, wobbled the bike. Because of that, he had a skinned up knee. And so these ladies who were there, they were like, oh, let us doctor you up, and here's a drink, and here, let us put a Band-Aid on it. So he was loving it. He was having the time of his life. And Jace was doing all right. And so I was bringing spare tubes and everything. So I took off the tire, put a spare tube on. It took a while because the bike he's riding, the tire rubber on it is like so tight for some reason. So it took us a while. So we were at that rest stop for a good 20 minutes or something. And then all of a sudden, here rolls in John Anderson, Steve's brother. He had finally caught up to us. He was like, and so then we explained and caught him up on Jace's crash off the mountain and everything. He's like, well, thank goodness for that crash, or else I would have been biking solo the rest of the ride, because I would not have been able to keep up with you guys, or I couldn't have caught you if you were that far ahead. So because of that, we were all kind of able to get back together at the 5th rest stop. Then we keep going. We get to the 6th rest stop, and guess what? Dan is there. He had gone home, gotten hydrated, eaten stuff, and then he was searching the different rest stops along the way. And he was like, oh, about this time, they should be at this rest stop. So then he jumps in and drives over to that rest stop and finds us there. And so then he hops on his bike and he bikes with us the rest of the way back, which is about 23 miles or so. So we had 23 miles left to do. He bikes with us the rest of the way back, was able to stay with us and everything. It was just the first bit. I guess something in the morning had upset his stomach, and then maybe the pace, because obviously when we're all starting the big peloton, they're booking it, and we're going like 22 miles an hour with a huge group, and it's like, if you're not used to that pace, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, that can be challenging. But anyway, it was super epic. So I love that, because then we all got to ride in together, all on a line. We all had the same jerseys on and everything, and we were passing people too, because there were some other stragglers here and there along the road, and we're just in our line, we're just rotating at the front, and we're just passing people. And then we're all like, hey, you can hop on, hop on the train. But the thing is, once you're out solo, it's really hard to jump on the train and jump with us when we're just kind of cruising and rolling. So it was so epic, such a fun ride. I was in pretty good shape, so I didn't really feel too sore or tired afterwards, but some of the other guys did and everything, so it was super, super fun. Super epic. And yeah, that's the recap of 2019 Storming Thunder Ridge. There were some other pretty funny parts, epic moments. We might have to get the whole group together and just fill in some parts sometime, but it was really, really cool. But anyway, so now Storming Thunder Ridge 2021 is coming up in 2 days. So we have a different group of guys here this time. We have Matt Schaefer. He's a younger Mumen rider. I think the youngest one we have right now. He is 19-ish? I don't know. I actually need to ask him his actual age. He's in college still. He's just getting into cycling. He's looking super fit, super strong. It's going to be awesome. We have Steve and one Pat, who are the original Mumen riders in the first ride. Pat has been training quite a bit the last few weeks, so this should be good. He should be doing all right. Steve has been himself the last few weeks, so he'll be fine as well. Then we have one of our new guys. We call him Try Guy. His name is also Steve, but we don't want him to get confused with the other Steve, so we usually call him Try Guy. Not because he tries a lot, but because he actually does triathlons. And so we first met him, and he was doing lots of triathlons, so he's in really, really good shape everywhere, because you have to be swimming, running, all that stuff, and biking. Biking's one of his main things. He loves biking, and he's super strong at biking. He's a really, really good sprinter on the flats, but he's also like really good at climbing too. He can climb as well. So he's basically like our Peter Sagan, who's like, he can climb well, and he's super fast on flats. And then Royal, who has signed up for it, who is our like super, super strong sprinter. He's a sprinter. He's not really good at climbing yet. He has potential, but he's super fast. Probably our fastest one on flats. Him and Try Guy are pretty close, but I think he's fastest one on flats. But being able to climb does help in certain situations. So, but anyway, he couldn't come at the last minute for some reason. I think because of work, something at work tied him up. But anyway, so he's not going to be here. But then Steve's brother John is coming back. He's just going to be kind of chilling. He wasn't able to train as much as he wanted to leading up to it. So he's just going to see how long he can last with us. He's already banking on not making it the full 100 miles. But he said he's just going to have a fun weekend and hang out with the bros. And yeah, it's going to be good. And then we have myself, which brings us up to myself, Pat, Steve, Matt, John, and Try Guy. That's 6. And then Dan. Dan is back in full force. Probably our strongest Mumen rider right now. He's biking like all the time. Like he's biking literally 120 to 200 miles a week, averaging or so. He's always biking over 100 miles a week. It's usually 120 to 200 miles a week. At the end of this week, he'll have biked well over 200 miles. So he's super good endurance, just super good steady I'm telling you, we're just going to stick them on the front and just be drafting and stuff. But anyway, it's going to be a blast. It's going to be a fun weekend. Now my wife and I are about to get out and do some shopping for food because carb loading and proper nutrition is very important on stuff like this. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll keep you updated following the event. Awesome. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and you'll get the notifications for the next videos. Yeah.